My child, listen now. Not because you will lose a blessing forever if you turn away. Not because fear should hold your attention. Not because one message controls your destiny. Listen, because there are moments when your life becomes so full of noise that you can no longer hear what your own spirit has been trying to tell you. There are moments when distraction is not harmless because it keeps you from facing what you already know needs your attention. You have heard many voices, advice from people who mean well, opinions from people who do not know your full story, endless information from your phone, warnings, promises, headlines, videos, messages, comparisons, expectations. Some voices tell you to move faster. Some tell you to wait. Some tell you that you are behind. Some tell you that if you were truly faithful, your life would already look different. But this is not about adding one more loud voice to your day. This is about becoming quiet enough to notice what has been happening inside you. There is a reason you have felt scattered lately. There is a reason your mind has been moving from one thought to another without resting. There is a reason you have been tired, even when you were not physically doing more than usual. Your attention has been stretched in too many directions, and when attention becomes fragmented, discernment becomes harder. You may have called it busyness. You may have called it responsibility. You may have called it staying informed. But sometimes busyness becomes a hiding place. Sometimes constant noise protects you from the one question you do not want to answer. What do you already know you need to do? My child, do not rush past that question. There may be an area of your life where you have been waiting for more confirmation, even though the direction has already become clear. You have prayed. You have thought about it. You have noticed the same pattern more than once. Wise people may have said similar things. Your peace may have been disturbed in the same place repeatedly, and still part of you says, maybe later. Later feels safe, because later does not require a decision today. But delay is not always wisdom. Sometimes delay is simply fear wearing the clothes of caution. There is a difference between waiting for clarity and avoiding clarity. There is a difference between patience and procrastination. There is a difference between resting and escaping. This distinction matters because your life is shaped not only by the big decisions you make, but by the small things you repeatedly postpone. One honest conversation delayed for months can create distance. One boundary you keep refusing to set can drain your peace. One responsibility you keep ignoring can become heavier. One habit you keep calling harmless can slowly become a pattern. One opportunity you never prepare for can remain only a wish. This is why attention matters. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you possess. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. Where your attention goes repeatedly, your habits begin to form. And where your habits go, your life often follows. You cannot give full attention to everything. That means every yes quietly creates a no somewhere else. Every hour spent in comparison is an hour not spent building. Every evening lost to mindless distraction is time not used for rest connection, prayer learning, or preparation. This is not about guilt. It is about awareness. Guilt says, you are terrible because you wasted time. Awareness says, now that you can see the pattern, you can choose differently. My child, there is mercy in becoming aware before a pattern hardens. You do not need to panic. You need to wake up. There is a difference. Panic says everything must change immediately. Awareness says something important deserves your attention. Panic makes you impulsive. Awareness makes you present. Panic narrows your thinking. Awareness helps you see what is actually in front of you. For a long time, you may have believed that spiritual urgency had to feel dramatic. You expected a sign, a sudden emotion, a powerful moment that made the next step obvious. But sometimes the strongest form of conviction is quiet. It sounds like, this is not healthy anymore. It sounds like you need to apologize. It sounds like you cannot keep spending this way. It sounds like this relationship needs a boundary. It sounds like apply. It sounds like rest. It sounds like stop pretending you are fine. These messages do not always feel supernatural. Sometimes they sound like wisdom, Because wisdom is one of the ways God leads. My child, you have asked for open doors, but before you ask for more doors, ask whether you are ready to walk through one. You have asked for greater responsibility, but responsibility requires structure. You have asked for peace, but peace requires you to stop feeding some of the habits that keep anxiety alive. You have asked for healthier relationships, but healthy relationships require communication, boundaries, patience, honesty, and the courage to leave unhealthy patterns behind. You have asked for financial stability, but stability often requires looking directly at numbers you would rather avoid. Faith does not remove participation. Prayer is not a substitute for responsibility. It is a place where responsibility becomes clearer. You can pray for guidance and still make a plan. You can trust God and still prepare. You can hope for provision and still practice stewardship. You can ask for healing and still seek support. You can believe that your life has purpose and still do ordinary work that slowly builds toward it. This is where alignment becomes practical. Alignment is not a mystical feeling. It is when your choices begin to agree with what you say you value. If you say peace matters, but your daily habits constantly feed chaos, something is out of alignment. If you say health matters, but you never rest, something is out of alignment. If you say family matters, but everyone receives the leftover version of you, something is out of alignment. If you say faith matters, but your attention is consumed by fear and comparison, something is out of alignment. You do not fix this by shaming yourself. You fix it by becoming honest. My child, honesty is one of the fastest ways to recover clarity. What is draining you? What are you avoiding? What are you tolerating? Because changing it would be uncomfortable. What are you calling patience, even though deep down, you know you are afraid? What are you calling discernment, even though you have been overthinking the same decision for months? You do not need to answer every question at once. Start with the one that already has an answer. There is usually one. You already know the conversation that needs to happen. You already know the habit that is costing too much. You already know the place where your body keeps telling you that something is wrong. You already know the person you become around certain environments. You already know which distractions leave you empty afterward. Clarity is sometimes less about receiving new information and more about accepting what you already know. That can be uncomfortable, because once you admit what is clear, you become responsible for your response. And responsibility is where many people begin delaying, not because they do not know, because knowing creates a choice. My child, distraction is powerful, precisely because it gives you relief from choice. You can scroll instead of decide. You can research instead of act. You can compare instead of build. You can complain instead of change. You can stay busy instead of grieve. You can keep consuming advice instead of practicing the wisdom you already received. Distraction is not always evil. Sometimes it is simply easier than being present. But when easier becomes your default, growth slows. The danger is rarely one dramatic moment. The danger is 1,000 small moments where you repeatedly trade what matters for what is immediately comfortable. That is how attention gets drained. That is how courage gets weaker. That is how a person can wake up one day and realize they have been waiting for a life they were not preparing to live. My child, this is not a threat. It is an invitation. Come back to your life. Come back to the day you are actually living. Come back to the responsibility in front of you. Come back to your body. Come back to your family. Come back to the work that matters. Come back to prayer without performance. Come back to the truth you have been postponing. You do not need to fix everything today. You need to stop abandoning the present. There is wisdom in learning how the enemy works, but do not imagine that every difficult feeling is a spiritual attack. Sometimes you are tired because you need sleep. Sometimes you are anxious because you are carrying too much. Sometimes you are confused because you have not gathered enough information. Sometimes a relationship is difficult because two people need better communication. And sometimes temptation does work quietly through distraction, compromise, resentment, pride, fear, or hopelessness. Discernment means refusing simplistic explanations. It asks better questions. What is happening spiritually? What is happening emotionally? What is happening practically? What responsibility is mine? What support do I need? What truth am I resisting? This kind of discernment protects you from blaming everything on the enemy, while ignoring choices you can actually change. My child, spiritual maturity does not make you less practical. It makes you more honest. You begin to understand that prayer and sleep can both matter. Scripture and therapy can both matter. Faith and budgeting can both matter. Grace and accountability can both matter. Forgiveness and boundaries can both matter. You do not have to choose between spiritual wisdom and practical wisdom when both are pointing toward health. The goal is not to become suspicious of every distraction. The goal is to become aware of your patterns. What happens when you feel overwhelmed? Do you shut down? Do you overwork? Do you scroll? Do you shop? Do you eat without hunger? Do you call someone you know is unhealthy because loneliness becomes loud? Do you disappear from everyone? Patterns reveal where you look for relief. And whatever repeatedly gives relief can quietly become a place of dependence. That does not mean you should fear comfort. Comfort is good. Rest is good. Enjoyment is good. But relief becomes a problem when it keeps you from responding to what requires courage. My child, you have sometimes mistaken numbness for peace. Peace is present. Numbness disconnects. Peace can look at reality. Numbness avoids it. Peace may still feel sadness. Numbness tries not to feel anything. Peace can make a hard decision. Numbness keeps postponing because feeling the truth seems too painful. You deserve more than numbness. You deserve a peace deep enough to stay awake. A peace that does not require ignorance. A peace that can look at a problem without becoming the problem. A peace that can say, "This is hard, and I can still respond wisely." That is strength. My child, the original fear behind your distraction may be simpler than you think. You are afraid that if you slow down, everything you have been avoiding will catch up with you. The grief, the uncertainty, the disappointment, the question about whether the relationship is really working, the concern about money, the fear that you have lost time, the doubt about your direction. Noise gives you temporary distance from those things. But distance is not resolution. Eventually, what is buried asks to be faced. Not all at once, not violently, gently, one layer at a time. You can handle truth better than you think. You do not need perfect emotional strength before facing your life. You only need enough honesty for the next step. My child, perhaps the most important thing you need to hear is this. Your blessing is not a fragile object that disappears because you did not watch the right video, say the right phrase, or respond at the perfect second. God is not waiting to punish you for missing a moment online. But opportunities in life do have seasons. Relationships do require attention. Health does require care. Responsibilities can become urgent. Choices have consequences. So the healthy form of urgency is not fear of losing divine favor. It is respect for reality. If something matters, treat it like it matters. If your marriage needs attention, do not wait for resentment to become permanent. If your body is warning, you do not wait until exhaustion becomes collapse. If your finances need a plan, do not wait until avoidance becomes crisis. If your faith feels dry, do not wait for a dramatic feeling before returning to simple practices. If someone deserves an apology, do not let pride turn distance into years. This is how urgency becomes love. It says, "Because this matters, I will show up." My child, you have been asking for a new season. But a new season is not only something that happens to you. It is something you learn to participate in. You can walk into a new job with old insecurity. You can enter a new relationship with old fear. You can receive more money with old habits. You can gain more influence with old wounds. External change does not automatically create internal readiness. That is why preparation matters. Preparation is not punishment. It is capacity. You asked for more. Now ask, what would more require from me? More responsibility may require better time management. More influence may require humility. More money may require discipline. More opportunity may require boundaries. More peace may require fewer commitments. More connection may require vulnerability. The answer to your prayer may not only change your circumstances, it may ask something of your character. This is why obedience matters. Not blind obedience to every voice that claims to speak for God. Not obedience to manipulation. Not obedience to fear, but obedience to what becomes clear through Scripture, wisdom, conscience, prayer, healthy counsel, and reality. There are things you know are right even when they are inconvenient. Tell the truth. Keep your word. Treat people with dignity. Do not exploit someone's weakness. Apologize when you are wrong. Be generous without performing generosity. Protect the vulnerable. Do not call cruelty honesty. Do not call control leadership. Do not call avoidance peace. These principles create alignment long before a dramatic opportunity appears. My child, there are moments when you do need to move quickly, but urgency without wisdom can become impulsiveness. So ask yourself, is this truly urgent, or do I feel pressured? Pressure says, decide now, or everything is lost. Wisdom says, if timing matters, gather what you need and respond responsibly. Pressure isolates you. Wisdom welcomes counsel. Pressure exaggerates consequences. Wisdom looks at facts. Pressure makes fear louder. Wisdom creates enough space for clarity. If anyone uses spiritual language to pressure you into money, loyalty, silence, or a major decision, be careful. God's guidance does not require manipulation. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to take time when time is available. You are allowed to test what you hear. Healthy faith does not fear discernment. My child, you may have been taught that hesitation always means disobedience. It does not. Sometimes, hesitation is wisdom asking for more information. Sometimes, hesitation is trauma, remembering an old wound. Sometimes, hesitation is fear. The work is learning which one is speaking. How do you tell the difference? Look at the fruit. Wisdom becomes clearer when you gather facts. Fear often keeps moving the goalpost. Wisdom can explain what it is concerned about. Fear speaks in vague catastrophe. Wisdom may say, wait, because this contract has unclear terms. Fear says, do not try anything, because you might fail. Wisdom may say, rest, because your body is exhausted. Avoidance says, do not face the responsibility at all. These distinctions matter. The goal is not to move fast. The goal is to move truthfully. My child, your next season will require focus, not obsession. Focus. Obsession narrows life until one outcome becomes everything. Focus gives appropriate attention to what matters while keeping perspective. You can focus on a goal and still care for relationships. You can work hard and still rest. You can pursue healing and still enjoy your life. You can pray for an answer and still remain present to today. Balance does not mean equal time for everything. It means your priorities reflect your values. There will be seasons when work requires more. There will be seasons when family requires more. There will be seasons when recovery requires more. The question is not whether every area receives the same number of hours. The question is whether anything important has been neglected for too long. My child, look honestly. What have you neglected? Maybe it is your health. Maybe your marriage. Maybe your financial life. Maybe your friendships. Maybe your spiritual life. Maybe your own rest. Maybe a gift you keep saying you will use someday. Do not turn that answer into shame. Turn it into direction. Shame freezes. Direction moves. You can begin again. That is one of the great gifts of grace. You can notice that you drifted and return. You can admit that you were distracted and refocus. You can acknowledge that you delayed and still take the next step. You do not need to spend another year condemning yourself for the year you lost. Use today. My child, there is a form of distraction that looks productive. It is endless preparation. You keep learning, planning, organizing, watching tutorials, taking notes, waiting to feel ready. Eventually, preparation becomes avoidance if it never becomes participation. You do not need one more course before you begin everything. You do not need one more opinion before every decision. You do not need perfect confidence. There comes a moment when you have enough information for one step. Take that step. Send the email. Make the call. Publish the work. Apply for the position. Schedule the appointment. Ask the question. Start small. Action creates information. You may learn more from one honest attempt than from another month of imagining. My child, fear often hides inside the phrase, I just want to be sure. There is nothing wrong with wanting certainty. But many important decisions do not offer certainty. You can choose wisely without guaranteeing the outcome. You can marry with wisdom and still not know every future challenge. You can take a job and still not know exactly how the company will change. You can move and still not know every consequence. You can begin healing and still not know how long it will take. The absence of certainty does not always mean the absence of guidance. Sometimes you receive enough light for the next step and no more. Psalm 119 describes God's word as a lamp for the feet and a light for the path. A lamp does not show the whole road. It gives enough light to keep walking. You have been asking for the whole map. Maybe what you need is the next 10 feet. My child, if you could see every step in advance, you might confuse knowledge with trust. Trust grows when you respond to what is clear while releasing what is not. That does not mean you stop planning. It means planning stops pretending to be control. You create a budget, but you cannot control the economy. You prepare for an interview, but you cannot control the hiring manager. You communicate honestly, but you cannot control another person's response. You care for your health, but you cannot guarantee every outcome. Responsibility has limits. Peace often begins where you accept those limits. You are responsible for your preparation, not every result. You are responsible for your integrity, not everyone's opinion. You are responsible for your boundaries, not whether people like them. You are responsible for your next faithful step, not the entire future. This distinction will save you from carrying burdens that were never yours. My child, you have spent too much energy trying to manage what other people think. That is another form of distraction. You replay conversations. You wonder if they misunderstood. You rewrite messages in your head. You imagine what they might be saying about you. You consider changing a decision simply because someone disapproved. But if you organize your life around avoiding misunderstanding, you will lose clarity. You cannot explain yourself into universal approval. Some people will misunderstand you because they do not have enough information. Some will misunderstand you because your growth changes what they receive from you. Some will misunderstand you because they prefer the version of you that had weaker boundaries. Your job is not to convince everyone. Your job is to live honestly. Be willing to listen when criticism is wise. Be willing to change when you are wrong. But do not make approval your compass. Approval is unstable. Integrity is steadier. My child, the enemy of your focus is not always your phone. Sometimes it is resentment. You can lose hours to a conversation that happened days ago. You can replay an insult until it occupies more space in your life than the person who said it. You can build imaginary arguments and spend emotional energy defending yourself to someone who is not even present. Resentment is attention captured by injury. Forgiveness is not pretending the injury did not matter. It is refusing to let the injury keep renting space in your mind forever. Forgiveness may be a process. It may require boundaries. It may require grief. It may require help. But every step towards release returns attention to your own life. That is freedom. My child, attention is also lost through comparison. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to abandon your own assignment. You look at someone else's career and forget your actual next step. You look at someone else's marriage and stop appreciating the relationship in front of you. You look at someone else's body and become hostile toward your own. You look at someone else's ministry, business, home income, or influence and begin treating your life as a failure. But you are comparing visible outcomes with invisible histories. You do not know their full story. You do not know their support. You do not know their debt. You do not know their grief. You do not know what their life costs internally. Stop using someone else's highlight as evidence against your worth. Return to your lane. What is yours to build? What is yours to learn? What is yours to repair? What is yours to release? That is enough. My child, there is a reason the middle of a long season is difficult. At the beginning, you have energy. At the end, you can see progress. The middle asks for consistency without excitement. That is where many people drift. Not because they made one terrible decision, because they became tired of doing small right things. They stopped tracking, stopped praying, stopped resting, stopped showing up, stopped paying attention. Then drift became distance. You do not need dramatic motivation. You need systems that support what matters. If something is important, Make it easier to remember. Put it on the calendar. Create a routine. Ask someone to hold you accountable. Remove obvious distractions. Prepare the night before. Set a limit. Use practical structure. Structure is not unspiritual. Sometimes structure is what allows your values to survive your tired days. My child, do not depend on motivation. Motivation changes. Commitment carries you when motivation is low. You will not always feel inspired to pray. You will not always feel inspired to exercise. You will not always feel inspired to have hard conversations. You will not always feel inspired to save money. You will not always feel inspired to show up. A mature life cannot be built only on what you feel like doing. But discipline without grace becomes harsh. You do not need to punish yourself into consistency. You need to build rhythms that are realistic. Start smaller than your pride prefers. 10 minutes of focused prayer may be more sustainable than one dramatic hour you never repeat. A short walk may be better than an intense plan you abandon after 3 days. One financial change practiced for months may matter more than a perfect budget you never follow. Consistency is often ordinary. Ordinary does not mean weak. My child, if you have been waiting for a breakthrough, redefine the word. A breakthrough may be a door opening, but it can also be a pattern breaking. The day you stop returning to what repeatedly harms you is a breakthrough. The day you ask for help is a breakthrough. The day you tell the truth without attacking is a breakthrough. The day you stop measuring yourself against someone else is a breakthrough. The day you can rest without guilt is a breakthrough. The day you recognize manipulation and do not obey it is a breakthrough. Do not overlook internal change because it is less visible. External success without internal freedom can become another prison. You do not only need more opportunity, you need the capacity to remain yourself inside opportunity. My child, some doors should stay closed. You have prayed for things that would not have been good for you in the form you imagined. You wanted a relationship restored, but you were ignoring the pattern. You wanted the job, but you did not know what the environment would cost. You wanted recognition, but you were not yet secure enough to handle criticism. You wanted faster growth, but your structure could not support it. A closed door is not always rejection. Sometimes it is information. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is simply a closed door. You do not need to force spiritual meaning onto every disappointment. You can grieve and still move forward. Ask what is true. Ask what you learned. Ask what remains possible. Then keep walking. My child, disappointment can become another distraction if you build your identity around what did not happen. You keep looking backward. You keep asking why. You keep replaying what could have been. There is a time to grieve. But grief and fixation are not the same. Grief allows movement. Fixation keeps negotiating with the past. There may be no answer that makes every loss feel fair. At some point, healing asks a different question. Not only why did this happen, but how do I want to live now? That question does not erase the past. It returns agency to the present. You cannot change what happened. You can choose what you practice now. My child, you are closer to clarity than you think. When you stop demanding that clarity feel comfortable. Sometimes clarity hurts. You realize someone is not changing. You realize a dream needs to be revised. You realize your own habit has been part of the problem. You realize you need to begin again. You realize the answer is not what you wanted. Clarity is not always relief, but truth is a safer foundation than fantasy. If you build on fantasy, reality will eventually interrupt you. If you build on truth, reality can become a place of growth. My child, there are moments when you need to move because the season truly is changing. Children grow, parents age, bodies change, jobs evolve, markets shift, relationships move through stages. Time matters, but time matters without becoming a weapon. You do not need to live afraid that one missed moment ruins everything. You do need to respect that life is finite. Say what matters. Make the call. Take the trip if it is wise and possible. Spend time with people while they are here. Stop assuming you will always have another year to become present. Urgency can be tender. It can sound like gratitude. This moment will not last forever, so I will be here for it. That is very different from panic. My child, there is another distraction that looks spiritual, chasing signs. When you are uncertain, signs can feel comforting. You notice numbers, songs, posts, coincidences, dreams. A sentence someone says. You may wonder whether each one means something. Be careful. God can use ordinary things to get your attention, but you do not need to build major decisions on vague signs. Test what you sense. Does it agree with Scripture? Does it produce good fruit? Does it stand up to wise counsel? Does it require you to ignore reality? Does it pressure you through fear? Does it flatter your ego? Discernment is not unbelief. Discernment is respect for truth. You are allowed to say, I am not sure yet. You are allowed to wait when the information is incomplete. You are allowed to move when enough is clear. My child, your mind needs quiet, not endless quiet, not isolation, but enough quiet to hear yourself think. Create spaces where your phone is not the first voice in the morning and the last voice at night. Notice what changes when you stop filling every silence. At first, you may feel restless. That restlessness tells you how accustomed your mind has become to stimulation. Stay gently. Breathe. Pray. Write. Walk. Sit without consuming. You may be surprised by what rises. An idea you forgot. A grief you postponed. A decision that becomes obvious. A tiredness you kept ignoring. Quiet reveals. That is why constant noise can become dangerous. Not because noise is evil. Because you need contrast to notice your inner life. My child, protect your mornings if you can. The first moments of the day often set the direction of your attention. If the first thing you receive is crisis comparison and other people's demands, your mind begins reactive. Create even a small space before the world enters. A few minutes, a prayer, a verse, a breath, a written intention. Ask what matters today, not everything. What matters. Then return to that answer when the day becomes noisy. You cannot control every interruption. You can keep returning. Returning is a spiritual discipline. You drift. You return. You get distracted. You return. You become anxious. You return. You lose focus. You return. Progress is not never drifting. It is noticing sooner. My child, if you want stronger discernment, practice honesty in small things. Do not lie to yourself about why you are doing something. If you are jealous, call it jealousy. If you are tired, call it tiredness. If you want approval, admit it. If you are angry, name it. If you are afraid, say it. You do not become less spiritual by naming your real emotion. You become more available to truth. Hidden emotions control more than acknowledged ones. When you name what is happening, you can ask what it needs. Jealousy may reveal desire. Anger may reveal a boundary. Fear may reveal uncertainty. Sadness may reveal loss. Tiredness may reveal limits. Emotion is information. It is not always instruction. You can feel something without obeying everything it tells you. That is maturity. My child, your feelings matter, but they are not always forecasts. Anxiety says something terrible is about to happen. That does not make it true. Shame says everyone can see your failure. That does not make it true. Loneliness says you will always be alone. That does not make it true. Discouragement says nothing is changing. That does not make it true. Learn to ask, what is the feeling and what are the facts? Facts ground you. Maybe the relationship is uncertain. That is a fact. You are unlovable is not. Maybe the application was rejected. That is a fact. You will never succeed is not. Maybe money is tight. That is a fact. Your life is ruined is not. Truth reduces unnecessary suffering. My child, distraction grows when your nervous system is overwhelmed. Sometimes focus is not primarily a discipline problem. It is a capacity problem. You are trying to concentrate while exhausted, trying to make decisions while anxious, trying to be patient while carrying too much. Before condemning yourself, ask whether your life is overloaded. What can be reduced? What can be delegated? What can wait? What needs help? You are not weak because you have limits. Limits are part of being human. Ignoring limits does not make you faithful. It can make you unavailable to the very people and responsibilities you care about. Rest protects attention. Sleep protects discernment. Healthy food, movement, connection, and quiet all affect the way you think. Your body is not an obstacle to your spiritual life. You live your spiritual life through a body. Care for it. My child, there is a difference between sacrifice and self-neglect. Sacrifice chooses to give for something meaningful. Self-neglect forgets that you are also someone worth caring for. You can serve others without disappearing. You can be generous without becoming resentful. You can help without taking responsibility for every outcome. Jesus served people deeply, but he also withdrew, rested, prayed, and did not meet every demand. You are not more faithful because you have no boundaries. Sometimes saying no protects the yes that matters. My child, perhaps your greatest distraction has been the need to prove yourself. You want to prove that you are not lazy, not weak, not behind, not a failure. So you keep moving. You take on too much. You say yes quickly. You make your life look full because emptiness feels like evidence against you. But a crowded life is not necessarily a meaningful life. Busyness can become performance. Ask yourself, if no one were impressed, would I still choose this? That question can be clarifying. Some goals are truly yours. Others were inherited from expectations. Some ambitions come from purpose. Others come from the fear of being ordinary. You are allowed to revise what success means. Maybe success is not more. Maybe success is enough. Enough money to live responsibly. Enough work to use your gifts without losing your family. Enough rest to remain kind. Enough margin to hear yourself think. More is not always better. My child, the next season may require less. Less noise, less comparison, less rescuing, less overcommitting, less explaining, less urgency that is not actually urgent. Sometimes subtraction is how alignment returns. Your life can become clearer when you stop adding. You do not need another goal if 5 unfinished goals are already draining you. You do not need another platform if your private life is exhausted. You do not need another relationship if you have not learned to be honest in the ones you already have. Simplify, not because simple is automatically holy, because complexity can hide what matters. My child, you have asked why your peace keeps disappearing. Look at what you repeatedly invite into your mind. What do you consume before bed? Who do you talk to when you are vulnerable? What kind of content makes you anxious, angry, jealous, or afraid? What conversations leave you depleted? You cannot control every influence, but you can choose some of them. Protecting your attention is not avoidance. It is stewardship. You do not need to know every argument online. You do not need to respond to every opinion. You do not need to keep checking a person who is no longer part of your life. You do not need to expose yourself repeatedly to information that destroys your peace without helping you act wisely. Stay informed where responsibility requires it. Then return to your actual life. My child, your actual life needs you more than the endless stream does. Someone may need your eye contact. Your body may need a walk. Your home may need care. Your work may need focused effort. Your soul may need quiet. Attention is love when given deliberately. What you look at closely, you learn to value. Give attention to what you say matters. My child, obedience often looks less dramatic than people expect. It can look like arriving on time, keeping a promise, deleting the message instead of sending it in anger, telling the truth on a form, returning money that is not yours, turning away from gossip, checking on someone, stopping when you know you are too tired to drive. These ordinary choices form character, and character matters more than spiritual performance. You can speak beautifully about faith and still avoid integrity. You can know scripture and still use people. You can sound confident and still be ruled by ego. The point is not to appear aligned. It is to become aligned. That happens in private. My child, private choices are powerful because they reveal who you are when applause is unavailable. You have made some strong choices no one saw. You walked away from a conversation before it became cruel. You kept working when no one praised you. You returned to prayer after feeling distant. You paid what you owed. You admitted you were wrong. You chose not to expose someone simply because you could. Those moments matter. Do not underestimate quiet integrity. It builds self-respect. It creates inner stability. When your private life and public words begin to agree, anxiety decreases because you are no longer managing 2 versions of yourself. My child, the enemy does not need to destroy your entire life to disrupt your peace. A little resentment repeated, a little dishonesty justified, a little avoidance normalized, a little comparison every day, a little numbness every night. Small things become patterns, but the reverse is also true. A little prayer repeated, A little savings each week, a little movement each day, a little honesty in each conversation, a little rest before exhaustion, a little courage practiced regularly. Small good things also become patterns. Do not become so afraid of subtle decline that you forget the power of subtle growth. You can rebuild quietly. My child, one of the healthiest forms of urgency is the decision to begin again before you feel ready. Not impulsively, simply sincerely. You do not need a new month, a new year, a perfect Monday, a dramatic sign. You can begin at 3:17 on an ordinary afternoon. You can close the app, drink water, write the email, open the budget, read one page, pray one honest sentence. Beginning is not impressive. It is powerful because it ends the illusion that change requires a perfect moment. My child, you have been waiting for a perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There are only real moments. Real moments include tiredness, uncertainty, interruptions, incomplete confidence, limited resources. You build a life inside reality, not fantasy. Start where you are. Use what you have. Ask for help where you need it. You may not be able to do everything. Do something faithful. My child, if your life is at a threshold, you do not need to be afraid of missing one exact second. But you do need to be awake. Awake to what is changing. Awake to what is ending. Awake to what is becoming possible. Awake to what needs repair. Awake to what is no longer sustainable. Awareness allows response. You have sensed tension because something in your life may truly be asking for change. Do not turn that sensation into prophecy. Turn it into investigation. What is changing? What evidence do you have? What needs attention? What choices are available? What values should guide you? That is how a feeling becomes wisdom instead of fear. My child, you may be closer than you think to a better way of living, not because a guaranteed breakthrough is scheduled, because clarity can change quickly when you stop feeding confusion. One boundary can change a relationship. One honest conversation can reveal what months of guessing could not. One application can create an opportunity. One decision to rest can restore enough energy to think clearly. One budget can turn vague fear into numbers you can work with. One counseling appointment can begin a healing process. You do not need magic. You need movement aligned with truth. My child, there is no shame in small beginnings. Zechariah warns against despising the day of small things. Small does not mean insignificant. Seeds are small. First steps are small. New habits are small at the beginning. If you keep waiting for dramatic momentum, you may ignore the humble practices that create it. Respect small progress. It is how capacity grows. My child, focus is not about becoming rigid. Life will interrupt you. Children get sick. Cars break. Work changes. People need you. Your body has days when it cannot perform the same way. A focused life is flexible without forgetting its priorities. You adjust. You return. You do not turn one difficult week into a reason to abandon everything. Perfection is another distraction. It tells you that if you cannot do something completely, you should not do it at all. Reject that. Do what is possible. Then continue. My child, there will still be days when you drift into old habits. That does not erase your growth. The question is how quickly you notice and return. You do not need to turn one mistake into a week of shame. If you overspend, return to the plan. If you lose your temper, repair. If you skip the routine, begin again tomorrow. If you spend an evening scrolling, put the phone down when you notice. Grace creates room to return without pretending choices do not matter. That balance is healthy. Accountability without shame. Compassion without excuses. My child, your discernment becomes stronger when you can correct yourself without hating yourself. Shame makes correction harder because every mistake feels like a threat to identity. Grace says you did something unwise. Learn, not you are permanently unwise. This gives you energy to change. You do not have to defend every mistake. You can admit it, repair it. If social media destroys your peace, limits are wise. If certain conversations repeatedly pull you into gossip, changing the subject or leaving is wise. Do not test yourself unnecessarily to prove strength. Wisdom reduces avoidable temptation. My child, there is no prize for making your path harder than it needs to be. Use tools. Use calendars. Use reminders. Use blockers. Use budgets. Use therapy. Use community. Use accountability. Grace does not make systems unnecessary. Systems can be one way grace becomes practical. My child, the goal is not a perfectly optimized life. You are not a machine. Leave room for wonder, for play, for relationships, for unplanned moments. Focus is not rigid control. It is knowing what matters enough that you can enjoy the rest without guilt. When priorities are clear, leisure becomes sweeter. You can rest because you know what you are returning to. My child, you have been afraid that slowing down will make you fall behind. Behind whom? There is no universal timeline. Some people begin careers at 20, some at 40. Some rebuild at 60. Some find love later. Some change direction many times. Your life does not need to match someone else's sequence. Attention to your own season is more useful than anxiety about theirs. My child, if your season is preparation, prepare. If your season is grieving, grieve. If your season is building, build. If your season is resting, rest. If your season is letting go, let go. Do not force every season to look like visible growth. Roots grow underground. My child, eventually roots support fruit. But fruit arrives in season. You cannot pull on a branch to make fruit grow faster. There are parts of life you can influence, and parts you cannot hurry. Wisdom knows the difference. Work where work is required. Wait where waiting is required. Rest where rest is required. Move where movement is required. This is alignment. My child, you will not always get it right. That is okay. Discernment grows through practice. You make decisions. You observe fruit. You learn. You adjust. Do not demand infallibility from yourself. Only God sees the whole picture. Your task is faithfulness with the light you have. My child, there is peace in accepting that. You do not need to carry omniscience. You do not need to predict every outcome. You need humility, courage, attention, wisdom, and the willingness to return when you drift. My child, the next time distraction whispers, later ask one question. Is later actually wiser, or is later simply easier? Sometimes later is wiser. You are tired. You need more information. The timing is poor. Then wait. But sometimes later is avoidance. Know the difference. My child, the next time fear says, if you do not act now, you will lose everything. Ask, what are the actual facts? Fear often uses absolute language. Everything, never, always, ruined, too late. Truth is usually more specific. This deadline is Friday. This relationship needs a conversation. This bill is overdue. Specificity reduces fear. My child, the next time comparison says, you are behind, ask, behind, according to whose timeline? Then, return to your work. My child, the next time resentment pulls your attention backward, ask, what boundary or healing step would return energy to my life? My child, the next time shame says, you wasted too much time, answer, I still have this day. That is enough. My child, your attention can come home. You are not permanently scattered. You are not doomed to procrastinate forever. You are not weak, because modern life trained your mind toward distraction. You can retrain, slowly, patiently, with grace. My child, your focus is worth protecting, because your life is made of attention. What you repeatedly attend to becomes part of your inner world. Choose truth. Choose relationships that nourish. Choose work that matters. Choose rest. Choose quiet. Choose learning. Choose presence. Not perfectly, regularly. My child, if something good is approaching, you do not need fear to prepare for it. Prepare with wisdom. If nothing dramatic changes soon, your preparation still has value. A clearer mind is valuable. Healthier boundaries are valuable. Better stewardship is valuable. Deeper faith is valuable. Your growth does not become meaningless if it is not followed by a spectacular event. This protects you from hype. My child, do not build your faith on spectacle. Build it on truth. God is present in ordinary faithfulness. The meal, the commute, the spreadsheet, the conversation, the walk, the prayer whispered while washing dishes, the honest decision nobody sees. Your life does not need to become dramatic to become sacred. My child, perhaps the greatest alignment is this. Your inner life and outer life begin to agree. You say peace matters, and you protect it. You say family matters, and you give presence. You say faith matters, and you practice it. You say health matters, and you care for your body. You say integrity matters, and you tell the truth. This congruence creates strength. You no longer spend energy pretending. My child, that is the kind of readiness worth seeking. Not readiness for one predicted blessing. Readiness to live wisely in whatever season comes. Ready to receive. Ready to release. Ready to act. Ready to wait. Ready to learn. Ready to apologize. Ready to change course. This flexibility is strength. My child, as this message closes, remember the opening. Listen now, not because fear says everything will disappear if you do not. Listen, because your life deserves your attention. Not tomorrow, not when you feel more spiritual, not when you are less tired. Today, give one part of your life honest attention. Not panic. Attention, not shame. Honesty, not pressure. Presence. My child, you have heard many voices. Let the loudest one no longer be fear. Let wisdom speak. Let truth speak. Let scripture speak. Let reality speak. Let the people who have earned trust speak. Then make your decision with humility. My child, the enemy does not need one giant moment if small distractions can keep you asleep. So wake up gently. Put down what is numbing you. Pick up what you have been postponing. Return to what matters. If you have drifted, return. If you have delayed, begin. If you are tired, rest. If you are confused, gather wisdom. If you are afraid, take one responsible step. You do not need to force your future. You need to stop abandoning your present. My child, your blessing is not hanging by the thread of this video. Your life is not controlled by an algorithm. God's love is not lost because you did not respond to a message online. But your choices matter. Your habits matter. Your attention matters. Your integrity matters. Your relationships matter. Your health matters. Your time matters. Treat what matters like it matters. That is the urgency. My child, stay awake. Stay grounded. Stay teachable. Stay honest. And when you notice yourself drifting into noise, return again. You may be closer than you think. Not necessarily to a dramatic event, but to a clearer, steadier, more aligned way of living. That kind of change is real, and it begins with the next faithful thing you choose to do.